Good morning. It's Saturday, November 23rd. And before I get into the crux of this rant, let me tell you, I am very proud to be an American. I'm very proud to be a citizen of this country. I'm very proud of the fact that many in this country can work hard and gain some comfortable living. I'm also not happy about the many millions in this country that live at the poverty level. And I really think that we do many things incorrectly in this country. But I'm still very proud to be an American. And this particular situation that I am about to rant about is upsetting because when I recognize the fact that only about 20% of the voting population in this country ever consider changing their vote. And that, in my mind, is a big mistake. And this thing that I am going to talk about this morning indicate the ignorance that about 80% of the population has with respect to the laws of this country and the Constitution of this country. So let me tell you what's happening here. This situation deals with the 19th Amendment of the U.S. Constitution. That's the amendment that granted American women the right to vote. That's a right that is still known as women's suffrage. And it was ratified in August of 1920, ending almost a century of the fight for women to gain the right to vote. And that movement started in 1848 at a national convention called the Seneca Falls Convention, which was organized by two women, Elizabeth Cady Stanton and Lucretia Mott. And following the convention, the right to vote became a centerpiece of the women's rights movement. And so many, along with Susan B. Anthony and other activists, raised public awareness and lobbied the government to grant voting rights to women. And you know it took a long time. So after a lengthy battle, these groups finally emerged victorious with the passage of the 19th Amendment. And now we have people who believe that the 19th Amendment can be put to rest, can be removed from our constitutional right, but it can't. So, and in spite of that passage of the amendment, it still took a long time for contributions of different groups of women to achieve suffrage. Black women particularly were restricted from voting, and black men and women also faced intimidation and often violent opposition at the polls when attempting to register to vote. So it really took about 40 years for everything to kind of come into place. And we still know that this inequality carried well into the middle of the 1900s. But now let me talk about this particular thing that just happened recently. Question was raised by some U.S. citizen asking if President Trump would repeal the 19th Amendment. So questions like that make me understand that there are many in this country who didn't learn civics in high school and have to go back and get taught certain things. Because you can just not repeal repeal an amendment of the Constitution because you don't like what it represents. So if people learned about the Constitution and how our government works, they would understand that a president cannot repeal an amendment. It takes another amendment to do that. And nobody's going to offer any other amendment to repeal the 19th Amendment, which gave the people the right to vote, all the people the right to vote. So we must understand when we read certain articles that the questions that are raised in those articles are very often raised by people who don't understand, who haven't studied history, who pay no attention to how we got to where we are as a nation. And that should scare the hell out of us, because people are totally ignorant of how our government works. And these are the people who vote for people. And when I look at the voting results, I recognize the fact that the same people vote the same way all the time, that only 20% of the people in this country vary their votes from election to election, depending upon who's running and what the issues are. We are a nation that is stuck in a certain position. As great as we are still sucked in certain ways in many places. And so consider this. Consider what people were thinking about doing throughout the 19th Amendment when it can't be done. So I say that we need a stronger voting situation in this country. And we need to have more people acting intelligently and following the facts and not being linked to one source of information. Because we find that if you are a lover of Channel 5, or a lover of some other channel, or a lover of a particular newspaper, you are a one-track person. And we do not need one-track people in this country. We need people who can think outside the box. And so this little incident has raised that question. How many of you out there are going to start thinking outside the box and looking for alternative when you read something that brings distress to you? Because there are many ways to look at situations, and looking at it from one side only is not the way to run your life. So I leave you with that this morning. Have a great day. Bye. Thank you.